Aizawa sat at his desk, his hands covering his eyes. Bandages covered his body from the encounter with the Nomu in the bottom levels of the facility. Kurogiri, Asagiri, and Gaslighter had all escaped. Present Mike and himself both took hard hits, barely defeating the Nomu that had charged them. Not to mention, a student had been kidnapped, Nito Monoma. Nothing added up. Izuku Midoriya and Nito Monoma were obvious targets, but why? One for All was an obvious choice. That was a huge factor in why the villains such as Shigaraki wanted him, but Monoma. The copy quirk. The copy quirk could only copy a quirk for so long, so why even bother attempting that? Well, at least for now, to his knowledge, Midoriya should still be on the mountain. They can't copy what they don't have, right? Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Aizawa, more tired than usual, looked up. It's open. He called out. The door opened to reveal a group of dirty, bandaged students of his. He stood up, quickly walking around his desk to inspect the students. What happened? Why are you this badly injured? What did you find? He asked all at once, currently inspecting the heat and frost burns on Todoroki's arms. Momo stepped forward. Aizawa-sensei, there's a lot that happened in Sapporo, and well, it was worse than we could have imagined. And Midoriya, he. Ochaco stepped through the group towards the front, holding Hima and Eri's hands as they walked with her. Aizawa stared at Ochaco before counting the heads of the group. One was missing. Where's Midoriya? He asked, though he knew what the answer was before he even asked. Ochaco dully spoke. He was taken. Aizawa remained silent at his desk as Momo and Ochaco explained what had happened in Sapporo. The rest of the students, including the girls, had been sent to Recovery Girls' office for treatment. So the hospital the Urarakas were building was planned by the man who created all the Nomu. And currently, that same man is doing surgery on League of Villains leader Shigaraki in order to transfer not the person All for One, but the quirk into his body. And he might already be done. Momo nodded. Yes, there were also notes on All Might and a power called One for All. Though no intention of taking All Might. I don't know what any of that means, but I would have to assume it has something to do with Midoriya. Momo said. Aizawa glanced at Ochaco. Ochaco nodded in understanding. Aizawa and her would need to talk about One for All after this. And the liberation? Aizawa asked. Momo shook her head. Nothing other than two people who looked to be with the liberation. Though one of them, in particular, seemed to work under Dr. Garaki instead of the liberation. The actual liberationist they had seems to just be following her lead. According to Ochata Uraraka, her name was something along the lines of Asagiri. Aizawa slammed his fist down on the desk, startling Momo and Ochaco as his eyes grew red. That cocky bitch was the cause of that too. Not only did she break into Ua, take a student, and break out Kurogiri and Gaslighter, but they are the reason the Nomus were released into the cities and the kidnapping of Midoriya. Sorry, I've got a personal grudge against that woman, Aizawa said. And how did you guys get so injured? He asked. Well, the reason the Nomu had gone violent in the first place was... Well... Momo started. However, Ochaco finished. We got caught by the Nomu and... It must have triggered a chain reaction to any other hidden base across the country. Aizawa leaned back in his chair. They were the cause of the Nomu attack. We also found out they wanted Eri and that Hima girl too. Momo explained. Hima, that second girl who was with you? Aizawa asked. Ochaco nodded as she went into an explanation about who Hima was. Well, we were able to save two people, Aizawa said after Ochaco finished explaining. It had to be by chance Ua took a vacant area to hide Midoriya. Go figure that Ua wasn't the only one using it as a hiding place for people. Suddenly, a vibration erupted from Aizawa's black pants. Aizawa reached, pulling his phone out, taking a look at the message. Endeavor. More information from Hawks through Endeavor. We're going to have to finish this discussion later. Later, he said, looking away from his phone and back at the two. We need a bit more information before we can do anything. You girls and the rest are done for the time being. We'll take it from here. You need rest. Yay no, Ochaco said, standing and cutting Aizawa off. I'm not waiting or being left behind. I'm getting Izuku back. Aizawa and Ochaco stared at each other for a moment. Momo, with wide nervous eyes, looked back and forth at the teacher and student. Yaoyorozu, if you could leave us please, Aizawa said, glancing at Momo. Momo nodded and walked out as quickly as she could with her injuries towards Recovery Girl's office. Aizawa turned his attention back towards Ochaco. Uraraka, you have to sit this one out. I know you are in pain right now losing Midoriya, however, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get him back, Ochaco said strongly. With your parents caught up in this, you are at risk. I know you realize that. The school is already doing everything in its power to keep you from being taken into custody along with your parents. Aizawa retaliated. His phone started vibrating again. He sighed. Look, this phone call might have more information that might help everything that's going on, including Midoriya. Please, just wait before doing anything rash. At least go to Recovery Girl and get fixed up. I'll talk to you when I have more information. Understand? Ochaco glared at Aizawa for a second before silently nodding and walking out the door. Aizawa watched as Ochaco left, before answering the phone. Erasure here. Ochaco sat quietly, almost angrily, as Recovery Girl inspected her bare back. Only a bra strap covering it many bruises and cuts had managed to cover every inch of her back, but one boot-sized bruise had swollen darkly across her spine. What a monster! Slamming two teenage girls and standing on them, Recovery Girl muttered under her breath as she worked, kissing and properly bandaging the injured girl. It's amazing Ashido, or you didn't come out of that with broken spines. What can we say? We're pretty strong-willed girls. Isn't that right, Ochaco? Mina said from a hospital bed a few feet away from them. Ochaco, however, did not respond, choosing to stare at her feet while she was inspected. Mina's smile faltered a bit. Everyone else, except for Eri and Hima, who had been taken away by the teachers, remained in their own hospital bed, staring at the depressed girl. You kids get rest. I don't want to see any of you up and about you here. Recovery Girl said, walking into her own office as Ochaco put her shirt back on, along with Izuku's face mask. The instant Recovery Girl closed the door to her office, Ochaco was standing out of bed. Oi, Uraraka, she said you or any of us shouldn't be out of bed. Kirishima said from his own bed, the side of his cheek properly bandaged from the punch he got from Yosuke. Momo nodded in agreement. I know we said we would take action, Ochaco, but the school isn't shut down yet. We should wait to see what? Wait to see what? Ochaco said, her face turning a bit red. They already basically shut the school down. We're wasting time. I'm wasting time. Who know what they could be doing to him? And what are you going to do rushing out there without a plan? Kirishima said, you already are on the government's watch list with what that Dr. Guy did with your parents. You can't help out if you're arrested. We said we would help you, even if that meant being vigilantes, Todoroki said. But that doesn't mean we should rush into just going on our own. Aizawa cares about Midoriya, he won't just set him aside. Please, Ochaco, just wait a bit for news. I would be in the same state of mind as you if I lost Shoto. Momo said empathetically, but please listen to us. Wait a few days. I know that's hard, but we may have a lead here. You saw Aizawa's phone ringing. Ochaco, please, Mina whimpered, staring into Ochaco's soul with watery eyes. You saw that green explosion, a voice said from the entrance door. Ochaco turned to see All Might, standing at the door in his skinny figure, an oversized suit covering him. I haven't all the details, but that right there should be a sign that he is fighting. All Might said, now as much as Recovery Girl will kill me for this, young Uraraka, may I have a word please? Ochaco's eyes fell a bit at the sight of All Might. He looked more sullen than before, as if worry had overtaken him. She looked back at her friends before looking down at the ground, walking towards All Might, following him out the door. All Might opened the door to his office, allowing Ochaco into the large room. It looked good as new, all repairs from the gas lighter attack finished. On one of the couches, sat Bakugo, staring at his hands quietly. Ochaco slightly rose her eyebrows. She hadn't even noticed Bakugo wasn't in Recovery Girl's room. Take a seat, All Might said, sitting on the couch. Ochaco sat next to Bakugo. a good distance between them as she rested her elbow against the arm of the couch, putting her chin in her hand. Young Bakugo has already informed me of the current events, All Might said, taking a deep breath before his next lines. Young Midoriya has been taken by people who work primarily for All for One. Correct. Ochaco nodded. She hadn't prepared herself for this, telling Izuku's mentor and father figure. All Might sighed, his worst fears being realized. He placed a hand to his brow as he contemplated for a second, before straightening himself. All right then, I shall inform Inko when I get the chance. Ochaco's heart shattered into a million pieces. Her eyes grew wide as she fully focused on All Might. Inko, her boyfriend's mother. The promise she had made to his mother rang ever so clearly in her mind. Please, keep looking after my son. Ochaco stared. Did she just get approved? She had just got approved. I will. I want to stay with him and help him through anything. I will stay by Izuku's side, Ochaco said confidently. Ochaco sank into the couch, covering her face with her hands. She broke her promise. She didn't properly look after him. She allowed him to get captured, allowed him to destroy himself again. She failed. I'll tell her, Ochaco said from behind her hands. All Might's eyebrows rose. Young Uraraka, please, it is all right. I can. No, I'll tell her. Ochaco said, her arms falling, revealing the dull, red, puffy eyes yet again. All Might stared with sad eyes before nodding. Sorry to burden you with that task. All Might said, bowing a bit. However, that is not why I called you here. It actually is a, let's say, a side mission for you too. Bakugo immediately perked up. Ochaco sat up a bit as well. Does this have to do with Izuku? Ochaco immediately asked. Not directly, but it could. This has to do with the League and the Liberation. All Might said, young Uraraka, I know you are eager to get young Midoriya back. I understand. However, the Liberation and the League of Villains are step one to finding him. If we take down the Liberation, that leads to the League. If we take down the League, that leads to Deku. Bakugo said, his eyes flaring red. Exactly. All Might stated. He turned to Ochaco. Are you in or out? Ochaco sat for a moment, clenching her fist hard, her knuckles whitening. The voices of her friends in Recovery Girl's office played back in her mind. She sighed. Fine, I'm in. What do you need us to do? Kenlair here. Can you guys believe that? Things from chapter so long ago like chapter 24 are still relevant. Make sure to read some of those first chapters if you're a bit foggy. There's a lot of parallels between Izuku in the first and second chapter and his mindset, and how Ochaco's mindset is now. Gotta love anime character psychology. I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. Kenny Boy, P.S. A picture of Ochaco I drew for the last arc. I was gonna digitize it but I haven't had time, so here's a quick rough sketch of it. Thoughts? Should I do more drawing with my editing software?